everybody, and welcome to Paper Crafting with Tammy. Thank you so much for stopping by my channel today. It is awesome to see you here. I have a great project for us today that we're going to start on in just a minute. If you haven't done it yet, take a minute and hit that big red subscribe button so you see what else I've got for you next time, and let's get started. Hey paper crafting friends, thanks for joining me today. Our project today is going to be a set of Christmas cards that all follow the same basic formula, but they're going to be done with some different colors and with a different stamp featured on the front. So what you're watching right now is me arranging the card panels and taping them down so that I'm covering up about 1/2 inch all the way around the front of the card panel. So I discovered that it was easier to just put them all close together. My tape was 1 inch wide, so that worked out perfect to just go right over those seams in both directions. And then I had to go around the outside edge with that tape. So the tape that I'm using is just a white Post-it tape. It goes on so nicely and removes really cleanly. I'm sure there's other products that I could use as well, but this particular one just seems to be the easiest for me to use. I use it in my classroom too, so I tend to have it around. You'll notice around the edge of my mat that I have 4 different colors that are going to be featured in the cards today. By each one of those stamp pads, I have the blending brush that I'm planning to use and the stamp that I'm going to use with it. So I start with the peacock ink on the blending brush, and what I'm doing here is creating a little darker blend at the base of this card panel, and then as I move up the panel I am kind of getting a little bit lighter with that blending so that it creates a bit of an ombre effect. I'm going to go through this process with each one of those colors. You'll also notice at the end of the video that there is a green card panel that I created as well. I didn't feature this panel in the video because I actually created a whole video featuring that card. If you look through my video page, you'll find that one with the title of Case the Creator. It's a Team Tiny case video, and you could walk through that whole card creation process if you want to watch that video. So I've moved on to the sangria ink, and I'm just doing that same process with the blending. Next I move to the eggplant. Again, I'm laying down the ink a little thicker at the base and then lightening up as I go. I've got this video on double time, just so you don't have to spend quite so much time watching me go through that process. So when you're applying ink this way, just keep starting down at the bottom and then pushing that ink up, and that way you'll have it lighter as you get further up the panel. The last color that you'll see is the canary. And I actually wish I had gone a little further up on this card panel. I seem to stop a little bit short. The yellow was hard to get as dark as I wanted. So if you choose to go this route, just be patient with yourself with that canary or whatever yellow ink it is that you choose to use. Lay it on thick at the bottom, and then as you move up, just lighten that up a bit. The next step that I'm going to walk through in this process is going to be sprinkling a bit of a shimmer pen from Close to My Heart. This is actually a clear shimmer pen. So you're going to notice that I make a little puddle with this shimmer pen on a little sticky note off to the side of my workspace. And I really like to do that just so I've got a little puddle of that liquid to deal with. And then you're going to see me kind of pick up a little bit of that liquid and then flick it over my finger, just kind of tap it on my finger to get some of the drops to fall on those card bases. And I went ahead and did this step while I still had the mask on. just to allow it to drop a little bit of that really pretty shimmer in that masked off area of the card. Okay, so I go ahead and set that aside and then start removing the tape. I really love how these panels look when you take the tape off. It just creates such a beautiful clean line along the edges and gives a great base to move on to the next step in this card making process. Now I've got all of those card bases separated off, sitting back on the ink pad that they started with, and I'm going to start using the Stamparatus to stamp the design on each one of the cards. So on this canary base, what I've chosen to do is use this really beautiful star that's got some really pretty swirls on it. And you'll see me ink it several times to get a really nice deep stamp on this card. I love the way it turned out. I just wish that I had brought the yellow a little bit more down on that card base. So you'll notice that when I inked all of these panels, I inked them from the bottom up, but when I'm using them to stamp on, I actually have the darker section up at the top. So you'll notice that as I stamp these images that I am stamping a little bit to the right on the panel, and that's because I'm going to be creating a sentiment strip that we're going to put down on that left side. Alrighty, so then we're just going to move on, and with the sangria, you'll see that I'm stamping a stocking image, and it's from that same set. So this was just a really neat Christmas set that I had, and I wanted a really bold image that I could stamp on the front that would hold some ink and give me an opportunity to just have a really deep, deep, deep black to contrast that background. So you'll see me stamp each one several times as I go through this process. I am new to using a Stamparatus, so this is something that I am kind of learning. I find myself wanting more magnets than it comes with because I feel like it doesn't hold it as tight as I want. So as I finish each one, I just set it aside and move on. So this next one features the eggplant base. And this particular stamp was pretty wide. It's a big ornament stamp. So no matter how I did it, it was going to end up covered up by part of the sentiment strip. Honestly, as I was looking at it, right as I went to stamp it, I thought, oh, I could have done this panel sideways so that the card opened the other direction. And that actually would have worked better with this particular stamp. But too late. If I make another set, I'll know to make that alteration in the future. This particular stamp, I think I had to hit maybe 3 times before I was able to finish that one up and move on to the last one, which was stamped with the peacock ink. All 4 of these inks are close to my heart inks. The green card that you'll see featured at the end, it was done with New England Ivy, another close to my heart ink. I want to say I had to do this snowflake maybe 4 times to get the depth that I really wanted in that black ink. So you're going to see me go through that a few times before it's done. I do really like how all of these turned out and just that really neat image. Here I've gotten a black rectangle, and I do not have an anti-static pouch. So what you're seeing is me using a little dauber with some baby powder to put down just a little bit of powder to try to keep my embossing powder from getting everywhere. So I've got a little sentiment. It says, "'Tis the season to sparkle." And I'm just stamping that with some Versamark ink. And I'm doing it several times on this piece of paper because what I'm going to do is cut this into strips. So I figured I might as well get them all stamped on the same sheet and use the embossing powder, and I'm just embossing them all at once. So the embossing powder is just a Wow embossing powder, and it's a fine, I want to say it's opaque white. Maybe it's bright white. Of course, giving that a good tap, trying to get all the excess off. And I just use my heat gun to set that embossing powder before moving on and cutting that into strips. During this last section of the video, you're going to notice that I have gotten a colored panel to put behind each one of these card fronts. So I've just mounted it on a complementary color. So I really tried to find a piece of paper that was very similar to the ink color. And then when I mount it on the card front, you'll see just a little white edge around it. So that was just a choice that I made for how I wanted these to look. So you're just seeing me mount those, and then I'm going to go through and mount each one to a card front. My next step is to use some foam mounting tape on the back of that embossed strip, just to go ahead and kick that up a little bit, give it a little bit of dimension, and I'm attaching that strip just inside where I've done the ink blending. Okay, so I've got a little bit of the ink blending showing to the left, and I've got that strip just running down the face of that card. So you'll see me apply that to each of these 4 cards, and I just use that same method all the way through. For this last section of the card, what you're going to see me do is just use my tweezers to apply a little bling to the front of these cards. So I've just got some adhesive rhinestones that I'm putting on, and I tried to kind of place them where the curly cues are on the stamps, and just for some uniformity, but I really love the little pop of those jewels on these cards. So you're going to notice at the end of the video, I've got a picture to kind of show you all 5 of the cards together, and I added the green one in as well so you could see the completed set. I actually thought these would be really fun to give to someone as a gift, just to box them up and provide those to someone, or make them a prize at one of my crops or something like that. So I really hope that you enjoyed your time with me today and getting to walk through the process of creating a whole set of cards using the same design method. I had a lot of fun walking through this with you, and I hope that you take some time to come back to my channel. Hit that big red subscribe button so that you have the opportunity to see my content in the future. Thanks for joining me today. Bye-bye.